I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Ha Rakah Kodash. Double honors unto our apostle elders which rule great millstone while. And shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. May you endure unto the end. Shalom wa abababal. So this is Jeremiah 14. All right, and it's a drought during the leading up to and during the period of the siege of Jerusalem by the Babylonians. Okay, so it says in Jeremiah 14:1, the word of Yahweh that came to Jeremiah concerning the dearth. Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish, which the gates are the leaders. They are black unto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem is gone up, which the Lord's not hearing their prayers. All right, this is why he sent famine. He sent the sword, which was the Babylonians and the other nations. All right, it says, and their nobles have sent their little ones to the waters. They came to the pits and found no water. They returned with their vessels empty, and they were ashamed and confounded and covered their heads, because the ground is chapped, for there was no rain in the earth. The plowmen were ashamed, they covered their heads. Yea, the hind also calved in the field and forsook it, because there was no grass. Meaning they just abandoned the little calf because there was no future for it, right? There's no grass, there's no rain. It says, and the wild asses did stand in the high places. They snuffed up the wind like dragons. Their eyes did fail because there was no grass. Meaning the animals were dying because there was nothing to eat or drink. O Yahweh, though our iniquities testify against us, do thou it for thy name's sake. For our backslidings are many, we have sinned against thee, right? Which Jeremiah is praying for the Israelites. O the hope of Israel, the Savior thereof, in time of trouble. Why shouldst thou be as a stranger in the land, and as a wayfaring man that turneth aside to tarry for a night? Why shouldst thou be as a man astonied, as a mighty man that cannot save? Yet thou, O Yahweh, art in the midst of us, and we are called by thy name. Leave us not, which he said what? He does not change, and this is why the Israelites are not consumed. In 2025, you still have us remembering ourselves here today. In 2025, Malachi 3, verse 6. For I am Yahweh, I change not. Therefore ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. So we're not completely destroyed, because his name is with us, the Israelites, the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American Indian, and this is why we overcome through so many generations of hardships. It says in verse 10, thus saith Yahweh unto this people, the Israelites, thus have they loved to wander, they have not refrained their feet, therefore Yahweh did not accept them. He will now remember their iniquity and visit their sins, because the Israelites were going after the heathen and their idols. So the Lord was punishing them for their spiritual adultery, which is idolatry. And that's what the Israelites are doing for the most part in 2025. They're worshiping false idols, false gods, and rejecting the true living God, Yahweh, and his son, Yahweh Shai. It says, then said Yahweh unto me, pray not for this people, for their good. So stop praying for these Israelites, right? And that's what we're in today. Stop praying for these 2/3. Fuck them, all right? When they fast, I will not hear their cry, because they're given over to their pleasures. It tells you, and you could look it up, but if you AI, The Israelites are being prepared for a famine. Right now, we're being prepared for a famine. And what is that famine? It's going to come when they make that implantable microchip. All right, you already have the weather effects happening, but then on top of it, you have all these other things that are happening because of the wicked ruling, like famine, whether it's through shortage or whether it's through weather manipulation that they're causing problems. But the wicked, the so-called white race, they've been given the ability to take peace from the earth. They are Satan. They are the devil the Bible speaks of. Satan means adversary, which there's an actual spirit that is with them named Satan, and it makes them the adversary to the Israelite. And then devil means deceiver, which they deceived the world. They set up their image and said that they are God, which I'm talking about the so-called white race, which is the Edomite, the red devil the Bible speaks of. All right. Now it says in Isaiah 58:1, cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, which we're prophesying, and show my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sins, which sin and transgression is breaking of the laws of the Lord, which the first law is you're not to have no other God but Yahweh. And he gave us his son Yahushua as our Savior. It says, yet they seek me daily and delight to know my ways, as a nation that did righteousness and forsook not the ordinance of their power. They ask of me the ordinances of justice. They take delight in approaching to Yahweh. Wherefore have we fasted, say they, and thou seest not? Wherefore have we afflicted our soul, and thou takest no knowledge? Behold, in the day of your fast ye find pleasure, and exact all your labors. Right? So they're doing the opposite of what they're supposed to be doing. Okay? Verse 4, behold, ye fast for strife and debate. What do you see these Israelites all involved in? Strife and debate. And to smite with the fists of wickedness. Ye shall not fast as ye do this day, to make your voice to be heard on high. Right? Which we're not saved by the righteous acts of the law. We're saved by the righteous acts of Yahushua, which that law, he is the word. Yahushua, he was perfect in the law. And when he died for the sins, the wage of the sins of Israel, all right, which the law condemned us, and now through Yahushua we have life, all right. It says, is it such a fast that I have chosen, a day for a man to afflict his soul? Is it to bow down his head as a bulrush, and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him? Wilt thou call this a fast and an acceptable day to Yahweh? See? So the Lord, he what he's looking for is a man of a contrite heart. All right? Let me see. It says in verse 14, then shalt thou delight thyself in Yahweh, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, for the mouth of Yahweh has spoken it. All right? So we have to turn from our own ways and turn to Yahweh, and he will restore us. He establishes us. All right? So Jeremiah in 14, right, the Lord was telling him, hey, when they fast, they're not even thinking about me. When they go to the church, they're going to a so-called white man's church. These Israelite camps, they're going to the Israelite camp that says Jesus Christ. Right? They're pretty much in the do as thou will spirit. See, us that are of New Jerusalem, we're running the program of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushua. It's already been set up. It's his kingdom. The kingdom is Yahweh's. Right? We're praying for Yahweh's will to be done here in earth as it is in heaven. send Yahweh Shai back and establish the kingdom of heaven, which is already created. We don't have to add or take away. See, and that's the thing that they're doing. They're adding. What they're doing was they were adding the heathens' customs to the laws of Yahweh, man's tradition to the laws of Yahweh. Just like in the time of Yahweh Shai, when they were saying that you had to wash before you ate, and they were on the road, right? And what, they couldn't eat with dirty hands? They were making up man's tradition and making it law, saying that this was the law of Yahweh. See, so the Lord was tired of that shit back then, and he's even more tired of it today. And that's why he's going to destroy these 2/3 here in America, which are idol worshipers, and he's going to melt them here with fire. All right? It says in Jeremiah 14:12, when they fast, I will not hear their cry, and when they offer burnt offering and an oblation, I will not accept them, but I will consume them. Just like he didn't accept Cain's sacrifice. Why? Because he was doing what he wanted. That's the spirit of Satan. Do as thou wilt. See? And that's what they're doing today in these Christian churches and in these false Israelite camps. All right? The truth is with great millstone. All right? Which we're telling you the truth that salvation is only for the Israelites. And it's not even for all the Israelites currently. Yahweh Shai, as it is described in the Holy Scriptures, his image is as a so-called black man. And he's coming for the Israelites that turn from their transgression, which has been preordained. All right? And these reprobates, they've been doing this generation after generation after generation of idol worship. All right? So the Lord's going to melt them here and pretty much start over with the faithful elect. I will not accept them, but I will consume them by the sword. Back then it was an actual sword. All right? Now it's going to be the nuclear missiles. And by the famine, which there's going to be famine in this time, and by the pestilence, which it tells you in 2 Ezra 15, that there will be famine that he sends upon the earth, which this is a prophecy for these last days. 2 Ezra 15 verse 5, behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world. The sword, which is that so-called white race, they are a weapon of mass destruction. Famine, death, and destruction. The nuclear destruction is the final plague, but famine and death through many different forms is coming under the so-called white race. It says in verse 4, it says, for all the unfaithful Israelites shall die in their unfaithfulness. All right? Just like back then, the Lord was punishing the Israelites for their sins. Well, this is what's going to happen now because they reject Yahweh Shai. It says in verse 13, then said I, Lord, our power, Yahweh, now we know through Yahweh Shai, behold, the prophets say unto them, ye shall not see the sword, neither shall ye have famine, but I will give you assured peace in this place. And you got the men doing this. All right. Also, they're saying there ain't going to be no microchip. There ain't going to be no Jacob's trouble. There ain't going to be no great tribulation. Or like these antichrist Christians, they believe in a rapture, which is not biblical. All right. So you got false prophets that are telling the people, oh, everything's going to be all right. You don't have to worry. When they should be on red alert, pretty much running to place, get into position, right? Which the Lord created order, Yahweh Shai, man, woman, child. So the women are supposed to get in order under the men, which Esau created the women to say, I don't need a man, or I'm better than a man, right? I'm superior to a man. But the Lord created an order, and everything is to be done decently and in order. All right. And just like these false prophets, they're out of season. right? They're not in season telling the truth of what it is. They're telling you, oh, it's gonna be all right. Don't worry, buy crypto, right? And they got the sword coming down, right? It says in verse 14, oh, what about these Jake in these inside these policings of Esau's, right? You got like ICE. I was watching a video. A lot of these ICE agents are Jake, you know, and a lot of them soldiers that they're calling in to come against the United States people are Jake, right? And they're saying that it's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. It ain't gonna be all right, you fucking idiot. The sword is on all these people. All right. It says in verse 14, then Yahweh said unto me, the prophets prophesy lies in my name. I sent them not, neither have I commanded them, neither spake unto them. They prophesy unto you a false vision and divination and a thing of not, and the deceit of their heart, right? Little vain imaginations that they had. Oh, I had a feeling about this, right? All that shit is vanity. It don't mean nothing. The only thing that matters is what Yahweh says, and we got a sure word of prophecy how things are going to turn out. So you would be wise to take heed and cleave unto the hopeful elect of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai. Verse 15, therefore, which the scriptures say to do so. All right, I'm not telling you this because, I'm hoping you reach out to me and, we have company together. I'm not saying that for that purpose. I'm telling you the salvation of the Israelites is that unity of Yahweh, Yahushai, man, woman, child. You understand? The Lord is in that order, and men being men teaching this truth, and women serving their man at home. This is the order that the Lord requires of us to return to. It says in verse 15, therefore, thus saith Yahweh concerning the prophets that prophesy in my name, and I sent them not. Yet they say, sword and famine shall not be in this land, which it was in the land of Jerusalem back then, but Jerusalem is a people before a place. So the Israelites are here in America. That's why all the attention is here on America in the current time. All right. And you got true prophets and you got the false prophets. The true prophets were also set up by Yahweh, just as the false prophets were set up to deceive the people. Stumbling blocks. It says in 2 Ezra 15:1, behold, speak thou in the ears of my people, the Israelites, the words of prophecy. See, we're not telling you it's going to get better. We're telling you it's going to get worse, much worse. In fact, when they bring out that implantable microchip and make it mandatory, it's going to kick off a great tribulation and then nuclear destruction, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord. Which this isn't like a made-up imagination. This is biblical. And we have a sure word of prophecy. Look at history. And cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. The scriptures were made book form. Now the knowledge has increased, which when you go to that verse, knowledge has increased. All right, Daniel 12, it actually talking about AI. I'll show you. It says, let me see, it says, knowledge shall increase. Right here, verse 4, Daniel 12, verse 4, but thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book even to the time of the end, which we have the understanding because we're at the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. When you go into that word, knowledge shall be increased, it says to become great, become many, to become much, to become numerous, to become much, right? Where you're able to receive it, to shoot. It's shot into your phone. But knowledge, perception, skill. When you go into perception, It says perception is the process of organizing, identifying, and interpreting sensory information to understand the environment and form a meaningful representation of it. That's AI, right? Information is shot into your phone in an instant. So we have a sure word of prophecy, and the prophecy is that there's a great judgment coming to America, and the majority of the Israelites in America will suffer the destruction of America, which America is going to be turned into a lake of fire. Shalom to the elect wa abababal.